think we're good.
Looks
Okay,
that way.
sweet. There we go. Took a while. Hey folks, how are we today? Welcome to the Next Evolution Athletics QA and interview session with Barrett Donovan. And today my guest is Allie DeWolfe. So Allie is the owner of Back Alley Fitness and Medicine. I'm going to let her tell you guys a bit about herself. So Allie, what you got? Who are you? What do you do?
What do? I do all the things. No.
Yeah,
so I own a couple of gyms in Medicine Hat, Alberta. And they're just small kind of training gyms. So we do some classes, we do some personal or semi-private training. We also run a competitive powerlifting team, and then it's got some open gym stuff so people can come in and kind of do their own thing. So that's kind of our physical business end. We also own, and by we I mean me and my husband, we also own a martial arts studio where we teach traditional Shotokan karate, and we have an online fitness and nutrition training company as well. So we do a lot of different things under a lot of different umbrellas, but all in the realm of physical, mental, and emotional wellness. So that's kind of our deal.
Cool. Don't you have something else in the go too?
Something else? I have a child. She's 5.
Also known as a podcast.
Oh, my podcast. Oh yeah, I have lots of things. I forget the things that I do sometimes. Yes, I recently started a podcast called The She-Wolf Den. I'm not super great at like the consistency of getting like my podcast interviews out there. I kind of like to release them when I feel inspired to release them based on the topics that are, being covered and based on who I'm interviewing, not like on a systematized week by week basis. So there's a couple of podcast episodes out. I'm actually about to release another one tomorrow with another individual that I interviewed, but it's all about females in sport and females in health and wellness. And it's meant to reach out to women who want to better themselves physically, as well as just in their overall, wellness perspective. It's about kind of bettering themselves and getting the education and the resources, but not necessarily from a business perspective. I find a lot of podcasts on fitness they're directed more towards fitness professionals. They can be very sciencey. They can be a little heavy. So mine is a little bit more on the inspirational side of things and making it a little bit more bite-sized pieces for people who maybe aren't in the industry, that don't know a lot about the sciencey stuff and might not really take a lot from it. So it's more from that end. It's more from the people's perspective, like The Rock.
So
that's what I go for. Like The Rock.
There you go.
Yeah. So there you go.
Okay, well, that's definitely a lot of things, that's for sure. We'll just kind of dive into the questions then. What's your athletic background?
Okay, so I started my first main sport, because I kind of go through phases of different sport adventures. My first one was martial arts. So I started karate when I was 6 and went through that for most of my youth and teenage and early adult athletics. When I moved to Calgary to go to university, that's when I started getting into weight training. And for those who don't know the relationship between Barrett and I, that's when I started working with Barrett. Actually, no, we didn't when I went to university. That's when we met. But we didn't start working together till after I moved home again. So I went to university, but we worked at the same gym. He might not remember me because I was just a lowly receptionist. And yeah.
You how to fill in paperwork properly.
Yes. that was going for me. Good thing now, because now I run the gym, I should probably fill in paperwork properly. No, so we that's how we met, and that was kind of my introduction into weight training. And because I didn't do weight training before, I did a lot of running because that's what my mom did. My mom was like, oh, if you want to be in shape, you got to run a lot. And so I did martial arts. I did cross country when I was in high school, and I did running, like the track and field. I did the running side of things. And then when I moved, I got into weight training. and then really, really got passionate about that. And then when I returned back home, I bought a martial arts studio from my instructor, started doing that kind of training as a profession, and then opened my gym shortly after that because I realized that there was a lot of people who were interested in fitness, but not necessarily through martial arts. And I really liked the strength training side of things and how that improved my martial arts capabilities. So I kind of dove into that side of things as well. And then now, my primary sport, I would say, is powerlifting. I still do martial arts. It's just not maybe at the forefront. I've kind of switched gears a little bit, and gotten more into powerlifting as my sport of choice. And then I just dabble in other things. So like, I started playing hockey last year, even though I'm terrible at it, but it's so much fun. And I did a lot of like the, what are they called? Those races, the obstacle races. So I did those for a few years.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, like the Mud Heroes and the Tough Mudders. I did a few of those. Together. Yeah, they're fun. I like them. They're fun. They're just something different, right? It's not just running. So, it's fun. You're like, no, I don't like those. Any of the running. Like my husband, he's like, running? Why? So I started doing some of those, but I actually dabble in a lot of different sports. I like to try new things, but at the crux of that is strength training, because that's what gives me the capability to try any other sport and do okay at it, and have the capacity to be able to learn the skills because I'm strong enough to be able to perform them. So that's kind of my thing now, is I mostly dabble in, or mostly do strength training, powerlifting. I really enjoy that. I've gone to Worlds a couple times for it, and I'm, mediocre at best, but I do really enjoy it. And then I just dabble in other things just recreationally.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's probably the smartest way to do it, because it reduces the wear and tear in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost like your form of cross training.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just so much, especially as we get older, because I'm a little bit older than you. It starts to add up if you just keep doing the same thing over and over, and you'll feel it. Trust me, everyone does, even though they deny it. But if you actually have the ability to kind of like switch gears, focus on something different for a little bit, come back, focus on, I think you probably won't peak as fast, but you definitely won't break down as fast.
Yeah, and it's like from a mental perspective too, like my mental wear and tear is not as bad, because I'm like, okay, when I'm feeling kind of crappy about my powerlifting, and it's like, you know what, I just have a crappy day in the gym and just doesn't feel like things are moving smooth and things like that, being able to switch gears and take my head out of that space, and go into a different sporting activity where it's like, you know what, I just need to sweat. I just need to breathe hard. I just need to do something a little different to just take my mind off of whatever is bugging me in my main sport. And then the fact that my main sport contributes to all of my other ones keeps me really motivated, because I am a better hockey player. And then I use that example because that's my one that I did mostly last year. I'm a better hockey player because of how strong I am from powerlifting. So my physical capacity translates massively into my recreational sports. So if I want to get better at those ones, well, I got to keep focused on my training in my strength sport. So it kind of is two ways on that, which I really, really love. One motivates me to stay focused on that strength sport. And then when I'm just not having a great day, I can also use my other things as a bit of an outlet to still be physical and still kind of have that physical outlet, but without like burning my brain out too, because otherwise I get frustrated when things aren't going well.
Yeah, it happens to a lot of athletes, which actually is a good little segue into the next question. What do you believe your training philosophy is, and what would you consider your specialty in training?
Okay. My training philosophy. Training philosophy, easy. 100% that, and you'll know this quote because it came from one of your mentors too. Strength is the mother of all qualities. I love that. Yeah. It is. It actually is, and I use it all the time. If you are strong, you can do anything else. So that is a main quality. That is a main training philosophy that I translate into a lot of my programs that I work with my clients, and a lot of my stuff that I do personally. If I'm stronger, I'm going to be better. And that's in all aspects. That's physical, mental, emotional, everything. If it's strong, it has more capacity. So that is 100% easily my training, my main training philosophy. Now I do have a couple others, but I'll kind of allude to those as I get into what was the second part of the question? The
specialty.
Specialty. Yes. Okay. I'm trying to think of the words you used. So I primarily work with women, and it's just something that I found I'm really passionate about. And my main focus in working with women is introducing them to the concept of strength, and strength in whatever form that looks like for them. So not everybody wants to be a power lifter. I enjoy, lifting the heaviest amount of weight that doesn't kill me. Like, that is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. The weight that almost kills you, that's like a fun weight.
Right? I know. Where you're like,
I get it.
I almost died on that bench press. That was fun. Yeah. That's my favorite thing to do. I really enjoy it. I love pushing my body to the limits, but not everybody loves that. And that's okay. So strength might look like something different for them. But the understanding that strength is something that they need to prioritize because of how much it benefits other areas of their life is something that I really want more women to understand, and understand that they are way stronger than they give themselves credit for, because they've spent so many years thinking, I need to be smaller, I need to be quieter, I need to be like, I want women to just like, and I don't like to turn this into a big gender thing either, because I think this applies to people, but I find that a lot of women kind of put themselves into this little box of what they're capable of. And I want to just blow the lid off that box and just stomp on it for a little while, because that's garbage. And that's kind of my training philosophy. That's for me personally. And then that's what I want to bring to my clients, this understanding that being strong, being capable is not a bad thing. And you don't need to be ashamed of it. You don't need to hide from it. And that's something that is something you should want to pursue, because of how much it benefits other areas. So that's kind of my specialty, is working with women and helping them to understand the benefits of strength and how that applies to their life and their goals, and how it can be a improvement. So that's kind of that would be probably my main thing. And to kind of caveat on that, I suppose, meeting people where they are at. I am a really, really big proponent on, doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's better, and better for you looks different than better for me, looks different than better for somebody else. So a lot of the feedback that I think I get, and I don't know if this is necessarily on purpose that I did this, but a lot of the feedback that I get is a lot of people who work with me say that that they enjoy that it's the process is very personalized to them, and that it is very understanding and not judgmental, and that I will find ways to make it work for them and kind of meet them where they need to be.
That's always pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always enjoy training women. It's always a little more interesting when you train women, because you get them in, I find, one of two spots. One, they're so competitive, they'll like kill themselves. Or two, they don't believe, yeah, Allie, you are hands down one of the most competitive women I've ever trained.
I'm probably a bit of both.
Yeah. And then on the other end of the spectrum, they're like the polar opposite, where they don't think they can really accomplish much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting. As soon as you flip that competitive switch on a woman, it's really different, because guys are fun to train because there's bigger weights, usually, okay? Mm-hmm. But guys have a lot of ego when they lift. Mm-hmm. Girls lift, and I've said this for years, girls lift like they have a chip on their shoulder. Because someone somewhere at some point in time told them they couldn't do something, or they weren't allowed to do something, or they weren't strong enough to do something. And when you flip that switch in a girl, it's like, I'm going to rip this bar in half. And it's really funny to watch, because the most meek and quiet girl will turn into a goddamn animal when you load up a deadlift bar and let them rip it off the floor. It's right? Really funny. And it's really fun to watch. And then you watch that whole mental shift actually happen with women. And it's really kind of cool to watch, because when they start to believe they can do one thing, well, then they start to think, well, I can probably do this. Well, I can probably do this. And it just starts a domino effect. I find that all of a sudden things start changing, but they really have to start believing in themselves.
Yeah.
as much as we do as coaches. And that's the funny thing. Like when you see people, like, they've got about probably anywhere between 80 and 80% more in them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of funny. And women they always surprise me because you never know what's going to flip that switch. But when it flips, it's so funny to watch because everything just starts rolling at that point.
I always tell my dumb husband, he says the funniest thing all the time. He's like, you want to know a way to get Allie to do something? Tell her she can't do it.
Oh, I know. I did that to you all the time.
Oh my gosh. With my clients, I have one client. She's so funny. I won't even like, I'll be like, I'm going to just put this weight on. Okay. Hang on. Sorry. 1 second. I'm being interrupted by my tiny human. Do you need Munchkin? Oh, no, you can't. I'm doing an interview with Uncle Barrett, so I need you to go upstairs. Nope. She just needs to say something. Remember, tell her you can't do something. Come here for a sec.
I know.
Okay.
Like a little you.
There we go. Tell her you can't do something. Okay. I'm talking to Uncle Barrett, so I need you to go back upstairs, and I'll come up and see whatever you want to show me as soon as I'm done, okay?
Well, I just need to tell you.
Nope, not right now. Thank you. Go upstairs. Good job. She has so many words. So yeah, that's one thing I do with my clients all the time is I will just go up and hand them a new weight and they're like, no. And I was like, yeah. Just like, here you go. Like, it's not even a question of, hey, how did that feel? Do you think you can do this? Like, do you want to try a little heavier? It's like, here's your new weight. And they're like, oh no. And I'm like, I wouldn't hand it to you if I didn't have a like 100% in my brain. I know that you can do that. You just don't know it yet. So let's figure that out.
One of my favorite tricks is the classic, I don't think I can do that. Okay, if you're happy with that, that's fine. I just walk away.
Oh, that is savage. That is so savage.
Well, if you think that's all you can do, that's fine. I just turn around and I walk away. I don't even say anything else. And like 2 minutes later, they're in the bar swearing at me. Like, okay, that's fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do. I mean, if you want to be mediocre, that's cool. I'll just turn around and I'll walk away.
I think that's one of the things that truly, like I said, I am not a exceptional athlete, but one of the things that makes me pretty good at what I do in most of the things is that I don't have this I don't have it in my brain. And I don't know if it's something that I've built over years, but I don't have this thing in my brain that tells me I can't do something. Yeah, I'm like, I'll look at something and I'm like, I could do that. And it can be anything. It can be about business. Like I'll see somebody start a business about something that I have nothing to do with. Like I'm in the fitness business, but then I'll see somebody who starts up like an art, like painting business. And I'm like, I could do that. Like, who does that? But that's the way my brain works is I see something and I'm like, that looks cool. I could probably do that. Yeah. And I will see other people do things and I'm like, there's not a limitation. I'm like, yes, it might take time. Yes, I might have to work on a skill, or yes, I might need to find somebody who can teach me something, but I don't often go to that part of my brain where I'm like, oh no, I could never do that. That just doesn't exist in my head. It might be a broken part, but so far it's worked out really well for me. And especially when it comes to my business stuff too, where I'll see something and be like, yeah, I could do that. And then I just start doing it and I figure out how to make that happen, whether it's finding the right person to teach me or mentor me or practicing that skill or whatever it might be. But I don't know if that's something that, I think that's something that personally for me, I've always kind of had, and that's what helps me with a lot of my sports and things like that. But that's cool when that same thing, like you said, a switch flips and people realize that they're like, there's actually nothing that you can't do if you're not willing to work hard and figure it out. Yeah. And that's something that I really try and get across is that really there's not much that you are not capable of or is not available to you. So long as you're willing to try it, so long as you're willing to find an expert who can assist you, or so long as you're willing to fail a little bit until you figure it out.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I did with this is like, I have no idea how to run an online business. I guess I'm doing it with 2 feet when they shut my gym down. It's like, guess I'm running an online business now. Whoop, here I am. So I get it.
Did that when I first started my online business was like, I remember hiring a mentor when I literally could not afford to hire him and I had to pay so much money. And he had this really cool condition where he's like, if you don't make back your investment, so the amount that I paid to him in this amount of time, I will keep working with you until you do. And I was like, it was right before Christmas, and I did not have that money. And I can't remember how I scrambled it together and paid for that course, but I paid for it. And it was like, I did the course, I did, the things that he did, and I did this mentorship with him. And all of a sudden it was like, I started selling spots for this program that I had not developed yet. I did not develop it. Now I'm telling this to everybody.
I remember this story.
I didn't have it developed at all. And I was like, well, I've got a week to put it together. And I've never worked so hard, so fast on something. And it's evolved since then. But you know what? The amount of time that I would have put it off had I not just dove in and been like, well, time to sink or swim. I got to figure this out now. Had I not had that pressure, that intense pressure of like, I just started selling spots for a program that I technically haven't fully filled out and built yet, which is not everybody's style. A lot of people, you're one of these people that really likes to have things planned, and you're really good at having things fully fleshed out and planned, and your programs are amazing because of that. But I was like, crap. And I would kept putting it off until it was perfect. And I was like, it's never going to be perfect. So that was a really good system for me, where it was like, well, I started selling programs. Now I got to fulfill this thing that I've promised. How does this flesh out? How does this look? And I worked my tail off to make it happen. And I don't know that I would have done that without that insane pressure. And that's kind of what this global pandemic has kind of done. It's put this insane pressure on people to sink or swim, get creative or get out, right? Like, and people are really, you'll see the ones who excel, and you will see the ones who can't do it. Like, and they just kind of roll over and quit. And I mean, don't get me wrong, no judgment from me. It's freaking hard. And there will be some people that don't have that option, and that's okay. But there will be some who are like, well, bring it on. Sink or swim, baby.
Yeah. That's almost like the perfect segue into the next question. What do you think changes, if any, will happen in the fitness industry after this whole pandemic is done and we're slowly getting back to a new normal?
Right? Oh, that new normal thing is like, I love it and I hate it. Yeah. I'm like, you know what this stuff reminds me of? Colin and I were talking about this yesterday. I saw this post or something online. It was like, I just paid $30 to fill up my car, and I see kids biking down the road. It's like we're living in the 90s again. So it's funny because we keep calling it this new normal, but I'm also very reminiscent of when I was younger, and when things were a little simpler, and we didn't have so much media, and we didn't have so much just stuff going on. And I kind of like that. I won't lie. But okay, gyms. Okay. So I do have some thoughts on this, and I do think that we will have a lot more of the small or medium-sized businesses that really thrive from this. And I think that's good. I think the big businesses that rely on maxing out capacity in their facilities, people are numbers, people are not people, they are numbers, and they max out capacity, they sell memberships, and are like, oh, 20% of the people are going to show up and 80% are just going to get charged for it. You're not going to have those people. You're not going to have
I've never understood the business model of I'm only successful if 20% of my people utilize my product.
I totally
get that. I never have. I never will.
Yeah, no, to me,
that's a failing business model.
It is. Why would you rely on people paying you to not use your service? Like,
how backwards is that?
They're not going to keep paying you. Like, from a business perspective, you have to make money, and people will, and it's 100%. It is cheaper to keep a client than it is to get a new one.
Yeah.
And you make, like, from it, like, I don't like doing this because it makes people think that they're just like money machines.
Numbers. Yeah.
But it's a business. You make money off of providing a service for people, and you are better off, and you get more out of the people that you develop quality relationships with and provide quality service to. 100%. You get more. Those people are more valuable. I hate doing that because I don't like putting that on people, but it's the reality of building relationships, offering quality service. 100% beats out marketing and just mass numbers of people coming in.
100%.
Right? Like, getting new clients costs more than retaining your awesome ones that you have. Yeah. And so I think that the small businesses and medium-sized businesses that focus on client relationships and providing freaking amazing service are going to seriously excel, because people are going to realize the value that they get out of the social atmosphere of the gym, and that it's not just about the physical stuff. Because now that people don't have the physical stuff, they're like, man, like we've rented out all of our gym equipment, and people are like, you know what? It's not the same. I want to be in the gym. I want to be with my people. I want to be there now. And so it's not about the physical stuff. And so the ones who are like, oh, I'm fine. It's all about just, lifting weights and doing my thing. They're at home with all this gym equipment going, this kind of sucks. So I think people are going to value a lot more the social experience that's there and the relationship building that's there. And the businesses that focus on that are going to seriously thrive. The bigger businesses that have that model of people are numbers, let's just pack them in, or the businesses, and I don't want to name names, but you'll know who they are because of the business model, the businesses that rely on packing people into like group classes, they don't offer much service, and it's like 20 to 25 people in a class at a time.
With this much
are going to struggle. Yeah, are going to struggle. Because the not social distancing, the physical distancing components that are going to be put in are going to be hard to manage that overhead versus the number of people that you can have in. So you're going to need to either offer more time slots available for those people to spread out those numbers a little bit, which is going to cost more. Yeah, it increases your overhead. So it's going to cost more. So you're going to either need to do that, or you're going to need to change up that business model a little bit. Yeah. So my capacity.
Or I guess you could expand your space.
Yes, which increases your overhead.
Again, increases your overhead.
Yeah. So that's the other thing too. Businesses that are really intelligent about managing overhead really well are also going to thrive. That's one thing that I've been really proud of. I buy equipment when I could afford to buy new equipment. And we had a instance last year where we had a member who misused some equipment and did a lot of damage, like a ton of damage in our facility. And it was interesting because in the afterthought of it, when I said, this is how much it I kind of explained, because some of our flooring was ruined when this happened. And I said, I don't think you understand that I bought that flooring when we first opened, and they have since gotten rid of it. Like, it's discontinued. Yeah. I cannot buy that flooring anymore. So in order to fix the damage, I would need to completely refloor my gym. And the response was really interesting. He was like, oh, I just thought you could, get new stuff. Like, as he was doing the damage to the stuff that we had, he was like, oh, you could just get new stuff. I was like, I was gutted because I was like, I don't think you get it. I could tell you when I bought every piece of equipment that's in my facility.
I can too.
And I could tell you how much it costs, and I can tell you what it took in order to buy it. Yep. It's not like so our overhead, we've always been very smart about making sure we're not living beyond our means, especially when it comes to our business. So now our facility is more profitable when it's open. But also,
really? No.
I know, but we don't carry a ton of debt, and our monthly costs, when we maybe have fewer members, so when we can reopen and we have to have lesser capacity, and our membership might take a hit as a result of that, we'll be just fine, because we have maintained a manageable overhead for a really long time, and we always keep that at front of mind. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when they're first, especially newer gyms, when they first open, they're like, I'm going to get all the fancy stuff. I'm going to get it all right away, and people are just going to flock to me. And I'm like, I don't think you've ran a gym before, because that's not how it works.
It's funny. Like, every time I go to like a conference or a certification, so like, I always end up sitting with a bunch of different people, and we always end up having a conversation. And if the conversation comes up about owning a gym and stuff like that, without fail, and I mean, this is like with a high 90% accuracy rate, the people I talk to about owning a gym, I usually go like, oh, what do you do? I was like, oh, I own a gym. Oh, cool. First gym? Oh, it's my third gym. The other two failed. Oh, okay. So just out of curiosity, because is it working now? Yeah. What'd you do differently? Well, without fail, the two main things that pop up every time, or two main things, but it leads into a third thing. The first thing is they built their dream gym.
Mm-hmm.
They built their dream gym. They had all the equipment they wanted. They put it in the location they wanted. It was perfect. It was exactly what they wanted. First mistake. Second mistake, I hired all my friends.
Yep.
So of the entirety of all these people, and I'm talking dozens of people from all over like North America, have said the same thing if this conversation. Now they've said other things, but those are the two things that are always popping up. And the third thing is I built my gym. I built my dream gym. I hired all my friends, and I didn't have a community to fucking put into it.
Yep.
And then you're kind of looking at everyone going, wow, 3 mistakes I will not make.
Right. And then they do it anyways, which is.
And then they do it anyway. But like when I transitioned out of where I previously worked and into Trek, I came in with, here's my rent. I'm not buying a single piece of equipment that I can't pay for. And I'm talking, I've been collecting equipment for close to 8 years.
Yeah. I remember when you started collecting equipment.
Yeah, like first things I bought, farmer's logs and a log press. First 2 things I bought right there. They cost me a fortune because I had to get ship from Texas because no one in Canada had anything like this.
Right?
They were like literally 3 times as expensive. But
I bought a sandbag recently because you remember those workouts we did out in the parking lot and we had like the sandbags? I just bought a sandbag because I was like, God, I remember how much fun those were. And I forgot how much I liked sandbags. I've not owned a sandbag ever. And I was like, I could use that.
I
So
got like,
that was the thing that I bought in the pandemic. I bought a new sandbag.
I got a dozen sandbags. I bought 4 more before this started. They're a great training tool. And that's what most people don't realize. You don't need to have a ton of fancy, expensive equipment to get a great workout in. Like I've told my clients, go get a rock.
Yeah.
Get a heavy ass rock. It's just heavy enough for you to pick up. Perfect.
You can do a lot with that.
Throw it, squat it, deadlift it, shoulder it, all that kind of stuff. Like, but they think they need these. Like I need like Tidex competition plates to deadlift with. Dude, you need a rock. Like, like straight up. Like
the plates, cool. But you
don't get me wrong. We have 2 sets of competition plates at the gym.
Yeah.
I worked my guts out to pay for them.
Most of our plates out. I was like, I kept one of every dumbbell like setting in our gym because obviously Colin and I need to train. Yep. And so we wanted to be able to do like filming and stuff like that. Yep. And so we need to train. We need to do that. So we kept one of every single thing. And sorry, hang on. Take that upstairs.
Well,
nope, take it upstairs. Go. It's too noisy. Too noisy. Go, go, go. This is working from home, guys. Just in case you're wondering, this is working from home.
Oh,
so so we kept one of everything, but we literally rented out our bars. We rented out our ER racks. We rented out our plates. We rented out freaking bands. I had to buy new bands, like these little crappy like mini bands. I had to buy a new set because I gave all mine away and didn't realize it. And I was like, oh, but you know what I have realized? That I can do a lot with very little. So now when I'm running online classes, I run a dumbbell class, which can also be bands. So I have my bands kind of hanging up over here. So I have bands, dumbbells, or body weight, or a backpack full of crap.
Yeah.
Like that's what I've been running all of my programs with. And most people have, most of those things or could accumulate most of those things. Yep. And this is from a person who does a lot of lifting with heavy weights. And it's, you know what? It's not about getting better at powerlifting right now. It's about maintaining. It's about...
Unless you have the setup, you're probably not going to improve your competition lifts.
Nope.
Like if you only have 225 pounds of bar weight and you squat 500, chances are you're not going to improve your power lift.
And you know what, too? I have a full gym. I have a full squat rack. My freaking gym became my own private personal
Well, I have all my gear at Trek, but I also have my own gym. Like you've seen my home gym. I have a training studio in the whole thing.
But do you find that you're not like I'm not even interested in training for strength right now. I am overwhelmed with other stuff. My mental wellness has taken more of a priority, and I have been doing a lot of training just for fun. I stopped worrying about my total. I stopped worrying. I was signed up for competitions going into all of this, and they were talking about delaying them, and now they've been canceled or I've been refunded, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to push back to next year because
pretty much everyone has to.
It's a little different because I'm in the mid-range of an age category. So I wasn't on the tail end of an age category where, transitioning over would change some things. But I have a lot of shelf life. I'm not doing my sport for a year to just smash it and be a flash in the pan and then be done. I want longevity in my sport. I want to keep training it. I want to keep progressing for years. And I've always looked at that. Like, I've taken year or more breaks from competing because I want to improve my stuff. And right now, I don't care about my total. I don't care about strength training because I am not in the mental headspace. And when your stress is high, like, I would not recover from it properly. And because of business
one big
stress,
lift every 3 weeks.
Yeah, my home stress and things like that, just changes to our lifestyle right now are not conducive to running a high performance strength program at the moment. And you know what? I'm really loving changing it up a little bit and doing something a little different that just makes me feel good about moving my body.
Yeah. See, I still want to hit the heavy weight, but I don't, because I know right now I'm doing maybe 2 workouts a day. I'm not going to be able to get big numbers. I'm trying to help my wife raise a 3-month-old. Not going to happen. I'm trying to create a whole new business model. Like, I can't worry about my numbers because it'd just be silly.
Yeah, and you can't.
So what I would do is I'm taking the weight I have and I'm adjusting what I'm trying to fix. So right now I'm just taking the time to fix all my weak areas, like just build my hips up more.
Yeah.
My hips have been a weak area compared to my legs for years. I'm doing more upper back work because my shoulder is always acting up when I bench for a long period of time. So I'm just taking the time to build all that stuff up and increase that foundation, build my work capacity up, change a lot of movement patterns, build different things up. So when I go back into lifting heavy, I don't get broken nearly as quickly. And I think that's when most people have to take a second, have to take a step back on, okay, 2020, probably not going to have a meet.
Yep.
We might have one later in the year, maybe November if we're lucky, December maybe. But at the end of the day, probably not going to have worlds, definitely not going to have nationals. So that leaves you, prep meet at the end of the year. But at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. So the only thing you can really do is fix the stuff that you need to fix with what you have.
I think the most people that are going to struggle are the ones who really rely on frequent competitions in order to fuel their training and stay focused. I have practiced this strategy for a long time now, where I have taken large breaks, sometimes by choice, sometimes not so much by choice, but I have taken large breaks from competing multiple times now. And when I come back, like, I have huge, because I'm not peaking all the time, right? Yeah. So because of that, I have had larger progressions between my competition lifts because I'm focusing on the work, not focusing on the expression of the work, right? And so I've really enjoyed doing that. But I do know even people like we have on our team, there's a few people that really they get dialed in and they drive on competition, and they're going to struggle a little bit more with that. But you know what? If that's an area of weakness that they need that competition, this is a way to improve upon that weakness. Now you don't have the option. So now let's find a different way to motivate your training capacity or your mentality surrounding training and surrounding competitions. This is a great opportunity. You don't have any other choice. So it's a weakness of you from your mental standpoint rather than a physical standpoint in that perspective. I've always really enjoyed taking large breaks from competing because I like seeing big jumps in my numbers, and I don't need to compete that often, and I don't mind not competing that often. But some people really struggle with that. So I'm kind of enjoying that aspect. So even though I wanted to go back into competition, now that it's going to be delayed until next year for me, most likely, just because of the competitions that I was going to start doing, because that's most likely been delayed for me until next year, then I'm like, oh man, I guess I'm just going to go into my competition being a lot stronger than I expected. So cool.
Yeah. I find it really interesting that every time I see a person that peaks, I know their life expectancy in sport is this long. And I don't know how many competitions I've been to where a guy or girl smashed a record, did really well. 2 months later, 3 months later, at another competition, smashed another record. By month 9, oh, why aren't you competing today? Oh, my knee's a bit sore. Next competition, 2 months down the road, why are you competing? Oh, my hip's a bit sore. And all of a sudden, by month 16, you never hear from them again. Because their knee is shot, their shoulder destroyed, their hip is toast. So
I think that they lose the love of the sport. They get so far into training for that competition high that they lose the love of why we're there, which is to progressively get stronger. And I'm like, I'm like, slow and steady wins the race. Well, I don't necessarily have another option. I am not like a blow it out of the water, get super crazy strong. But because of, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a little bit better, a little bit better. I'll do this for a lot of years. And I still love the sport because I still love that little bit better. And I enjoy that. I thrive off of it. And I think that really helps me because now I can look at this sport and be like, I could still see myself doing this in 10 years. Whereas we have had or have athletes that did it for a year and they're like, oh, I don't really know. I'm not really inspired by it anymore. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't have to be. It's maybe not the sport for you. But a lot of the times those are the athletes who push so hard because they have such a short shelf life. Yeah, they peak really fast and then they don't. And then when they hit the point where they've got their
really work. Yeah.
They've got their noob gains and they're like, and then they stop peaking that fast. They're like, well, what's happening? Why am I not peaking as fast as I did 6 months ago? It's like, well, this progression slows down. Now we're taking smaller incremental steps. And they're like, but I don't do that. It's funny. It's funny to watch.
You get banged up. And when I went to work with Matt Wenning, he said the smartest thing that anyone's taught me in the entire history of my fitness industry and health industry and all that stuff. He goes, those that train the longest get the strongest.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't broken, you're going to get stronger. It just takes a little longer. And I was like, that is
I like that.
100% ingenious because if I planned it, like my mindset completely shifted when I said, I'm going to lift I want to do a competition when I'm 85 years old.
Right.
And as soon as it's 85, I'm like, okay, well, if I, compete once this year or once next year, maybe none for the next 2 years, I'm just going to take the time and build it up. Cool. But I haven't broken nearly as much as I was. Mm-hmm. Like when I was doing all my lifting before, like I'd do 2 or 3 weeks and then have to take like 4 or 5, maybe a week off because my knee was sore, my hip was sore, my shoulder was banged up. Then you miss a week. Well, you miss 12 weeks of training in a year cycle.
Yep. That's a long time.
3 months, that's a quarter of the year. And that's just if you're lucky to come back quick, So I changed my style of training. I adjusted my mindset and things got easier. Now I've tried a lot of different stuff to see what works the best and a lot of different systems. My numbers haven't spiked, but I've hit a PR every time I went to the platform.
Right. And that's kind of the thing is it's like, you know what? I'm just going to show up the strongest I can that day and your work will show for itself.
We aren't getting paid for this. People forget they don't get paid for this. Don't get me wrong. I really love the fact that people are pushing themselves and driving themselves to get stronger. But if you're like, oh, I got to bench 500 pounds, but I got to gain like 40 more pounds to do it, and I have heart issues, well, do you really need to bench 500 pounds and maybe have a heart attack with your family history of heart disease? Like, is that probably the best way to do this?
My favorite thing about powerlifting, just as a weird like side note, that now that you mentioned it, my favorite thing about powerlifting, I think, is the fact that I stopped training so much for body comp. Oh my God, was that ever like a thing in my head all the time? And now I'm just make me stronger. Like that's all I want to do. And you know what? Body comp is a byproduct of that. Like I want to max out my weight classes and be lean enough and like not carry extra body fat that I don't need. But man, I love that the sport, especially for women, is like, you don't need to be smaller. It's like, it actually might do more damage. You don't necessarily need to get into a smaller weight class. Smaller weight class is not better. And I love that. I love that. That's probably one of my favorite things about it is I'm like, man, I've kind of come to terms with, because I used to compete in the 67.5 kg class in 100% raw, which is different for like your IPF or whatever, depending on who you have listening. But I used to compete in 67.5 kgs. And I'm like, man, I think I need to cut off one of my legs to get there now. Like I really do. It's not a sustainable number for me. And I had a hard time hitting it. My weight cuts were awful. I didn't like it. I could get there, but man, did it suck. And my numbers, like they were not great. Like they were not great. And now that I'm like, I've competed up as high as 90 plus kgs last year. So that's a very large difference. And I was not comfortable there either. My numbers were awesome, but I was also carrying extra body weight that was not assisting me. So now I want to find that happy medium. And I'm like, when I looked back at weight classes, I'm like, oh, I could get down to 67.5. I'm like, no, I don't think I could take the hit to my numbers. I really don't. I'm like, you know what? 75 might be more my jam if I can get there. But even if I don't, like, I'm like, do I want 75? And then I think what's the next? I think it's 81. I can't remember now. Is it 82 and a half? Okay, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I could play there. I don't know. But I'm like, I want to get stronger. And I don't necessarily care what the body weight reflection of that is, so long as I feel good and I get stronger and I feel comfortable in my body, right? Like I didn't like being at 67.5, even though I was lean-ish. Yeah. Like I felt lean but my numbers sucked. And then when my numbers were the absolute best that they've ever been when I was 90 plus kgs, but I felt like trash. Yeah. And now that I'm a little lower than 90, like I'm somewhere in between the 82.5 and minus 90. I don't know. I don't check my weight very much. But now that I'm at that point, I'm like, I like how I feel here. And I like my numbers here. I could be leaner, don't get me wrong, but I'm like not at the expense of my numbers anymore, because I just want to get stronger. And I'm like, as long as those two things are conducive, then that's kind of what I'm going to do. Yeah. Yeah. You want to come sit with me? She just needs to tell me something all the time. Okay. Me and Barrett are just going to finish up our conversation, and then you can tell me everything. Okay.
Well, I'm just going to say one thing.
One thing. Do you mind if we say one thing?
I hope you do.
Okay. One thing.
Just one thing is the only word that
okay,
I was going to say. I colored my balloons with markers.
Oh, beautiful.
And making smiley faces.
That sounds wonderful. All right. Are you ready to go back upstairs now? Just the one thing that she's needed to tell me for the last 45 minutes. She had to. Kid has so many words that they're just brimming up, and she has to get them out or she might explode.
It's priceless because
it's like me. It's exactly like me.
Tiny you.
Oh, totally. 100%.
So funny. You were in so much trouble in about 5 years. Right. 5 years, you're in so much trouble.
It's awesome, but she's driving me crazy.
It's a short drive.
Yeah.
And on that note, well, Allie, it was really fun talking to you. We'll probably have to do this again sometime because this is just a blast. We could literally talk about this stuff probably all day.
Yeah,
people
have probably stopped listening to us by now. They're like, okay, shut up. You two are just annoying at this point.
You guys are annoying me sometimes.
Added on for nothing.
That's fine.
It's fine. It's okay.
But anyway, appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording and stick around for like 2 seconds, and then I'll let you free. Cool?
All right, sounds good.